I'm going to introduce badminton bumping. This is a badminton racket. This is a badminton birdie. This is how you do badminton bumping. You're going to place the birdie above the racket. You drop the birdie onto the racket. And then that's called a fail. If it hits the ground because you dropped it, you stop counting your trial because you failed that one. Start again. Drop the birdie. Get all the bounces that you can. Record the number of bounces that you got. The purpose of this experiment was to have the subjects learn the novel skill of badminton bumping, as well as to determine how practice and coincidence anticipation timing affects the acquisition of the skill.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. All the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Jingle. She said, I keep on running, and nothing works. I can't get away from you. Now I keep on ducking, and nothing else. I can't stop missing you. Yeah. It's like I'm her new nightmare. She ain't escaping. It makes me feel a bit complete. Frosty the snowman was a jolly, happy soul with a corncob pipe and a button nose and two eyes made out of coal. Frosty the snowman is a fairy tale, they say. He was made of snow, but the children know how it came to life one day. There must have been some magic in that old top hat they found.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games. We got everything you want. How do we know the names? We are the people that can find whatever you may need. If you got the money, honey, we got your disease. In the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Once we bring it to you. I wanna watch you bleed. Welcome to the jungle. We take it day by day.
The snow's coming down. I'm watching it fall. Lots of people around. Baby, please come home. The church bells in town, all ringing in song, full of happy sounds. Baby, please come home.
To reality, oh, there goes gravity, oh, there goes rabbit, he choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up, daddies, he know. He won't have it, he knows. His whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stagnant, he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go capture this moment and hope it don't do better. Lose yourself in the music, the moment you own it, you better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime.
Have a holly jolly Christmas. It's the best time of the year. Now I don't know if there'll be snow, but have a cup of cheer. Have a holly jolly Christmas. And when you walk down the street, say hello to friends you know and everyone you meet. Oh, the mistletoe is hung where you can.
Looking at graph 1, each subject was designated a set amount of practice. Subject 1 partook in 4 minutes of practice for both dominant and non-dominant hands prior to each trial. Looking at graph 1, subject 1 began with a baseline average of 3 for the dominant hand and a baseline average of 2 for the non-dominant hand. By the end of the 7 trials, the subject had improved the average to 4 for the dominant hand and 4 for the non-dominant hand. Overall, Subject 1 improved by a score of 1 for the dominant hand and a score of 2 for the non-dominant hand. Subject 2 partook in 2 minutes of practice for both dominant and non-dominant hand prior to each trial. Looking at Graph 2, Subject 2 began with a baseline average of 6 for the dominant hand and a baseline of 5 for the non-dominant hand. By the end of the 7 trials, the subject had improved the averages to be 7 for the dominant hand and 7 for the non-dominant hand. By the end of the experiment, Subject 2 improved by a score of 1 for the dominant hand and a score of 2 for the non-dominant hand. Subject 3 partook in 0 minutes of practice for both dominant and non-dominant hand prior to each trial. Looking at Graph 3, Subject 3 began with a baseline average of 3 for the dominant hand and a baseline of 3 for the non-dominant hand. By the end of the 7 trials, the subject had improved the averages to be 13 for the dominant hand and 9 for the non-dominant hand. Subject 3 improved by a score of 10 for the dominant hand and a score of 6 for the non-dominant hand. Conclusion. Bringing all the information together, the most important aspects learned from this experiment were that the amount of practice did not contribute to a higher acquisition of the badminton bumping skill. Integration was the most important part of the CAT model, and little discrepancy existed between dominant and non-dominant hands. Subject 1 and 2 participated in practice. This practice proved to be virtually ineffective. Subject 3, whom had no practice, actually improved more. We concluded that practice was not able to aid in the learning of this motor skill due to the integration phase of coincidence anticipation timing. Integration was important because the subjects were unable to anticipate the movement of the stimulus. Because of the irregular shape and weight distribution of the birdie, they were unable to learn from prior trials, which prevented them from improving their averages. Subjects also expected their dominant hand to perform the act of birdie bumping much better than with their non-dominant hand. This theory once again was disproven, as there was very little difference in the improvement between the dominant hand versus the non-dominant hand.
Her finger and her thumb